If it's your first time here, my name's Ammons. Thanks so much for joining me today. I can promise you one thing, your bow handles will not regret you watching this video today. Don't film me when I'm not happy. Am I right? It's unbreakable! This tree's gonna come off! This bow right here is the first working bow that I ever made. And this is one of the most recent bows that I've made. Handles can come in many different forms. Today I'm gonna show you how I would shape a bow handle like this one. This is the bow handle we're working with today. Now, a quick reminder, I'm gonna be using some tools for speed that you may not have. That's okay, you don't need them. I use a lot of my tools for making bows for Shatterproof Archery, so just substitute the appropriate tool for the job. Quick note, if you're interested in Shatterproof Archery bows, stay around till later and I'll get you in the loop. So the first thing we want to do is lay out. At this point in the process, I will have already tillered 90% of the bow, and then I'm gonna work on the handle and do the last 10% of tillering where I can shoot the bow, go back and forth, make sure the handle feels good, and make sure the bow's shooting well before I call it completely done. So with my layout, I'm gonna first establish the very center on my 8-inch handle. It's gonna be 4 inches in the very middle. So layouts can be different, but that doesn't necessarily change how you're gonna shape the handle. So I'm gonna tell you my layout right now, but that doesn't mean that's how yours is gonna be. Lots of people will lay out the arrow rest as the very center of the bow. I personally like to lay out the very center of the bow where my palm rests on the handle. So from the very center where my palm rests, I'll go up 1.25 inches and mark that. And that spot 1.25 inches above is going to be my arrow rest. I do kind of what would you call that, a half moon? That way the arrow sits on the very top right there. This point and this point are going to establish our beginnings to work everything else off of.
Is this the top limb?
Yes. Top limb's up here. On the center line, I'm gonna come up 1.75 inches to mark where I am going to drill. So I'm just squaring across my center line, and then I've got this mark here. That's where we're gonna start for our, where our palm's gonna rest in the handle, and here is where our arrow rest is gonna be. So first I'll go ahead and cut out the arrow rest while we're here. To cut out the arrow shelf, I always like to use a hacksaw. Now I know this is a metal blade, but it's 16 teeth per inch. And this type of hacksaw, you can really tighten it down. And this allows me to use this on any fiberglass backings or any weird backings or anything I'm trying to do. Plus it goes fast enough, fine tooth, it's perfect. So I'm gonna do 2 cuts right here on the handle. The first one is gonna be the first half of that moon. When you're cutting in the arrow rest, you never wanna cut past center. You don't always have to use an arrow rest, but I prefer it. I'm letting this side with the bamboo on the back go down, and then the other side is fading out up high. So that doesn't take too long to get that cut in. Next, while I have this bow in this position, I'm going to mark my fade outs. So the fade out is just gonna be a random angle, somewhere near 45 on both sides for the aesthetics. I marked this area right here. That's gonna be the bottom of where I drill, so the drill is really gonna be kind of like that. So let's go ahead and go drill this hole, and that's gonna give us a super good starting point. Either way. So I've got a Forstner bit set up. Again, that's 1.75 inches to the bottom, right there.
How big of a bit do you think you're using?
13/16. So there's gonna be our starting point. That's where our hand's gonna go, right there. So our next step is gonna be take this to the bandsaw or use a hacksaw or whatever you wanna do to take off these fade outs and to cut in on the All right, we've got this all cut out. From here, we're gonna chisel out the arrow rest. Now this is just a starting point for everything, but it saves a lot of time to do it that way. Grab our hammer and a chisel, and we're just gonna chisel back to where our rest is. I guess I'll mark this for you guys. I eyeball this normally because, well, I just do enough. But go here and we'll chisel it out. The key with the chisel, when you get to here, you don't want to do another hard hit because then you'll chip out what's supposed to be your arrow rest. You can replace that by gluing wood in later, but nah, let's avoid it. One of the things I'm working towards here is this part's rounded, so it's only going to touch, the arrow's only going to touch on the top there, but I'm also going to round this angle as well. That way at this one point, the arrow's touching the least amount of the bow as possible, less friction, cleaner release. So on this bow right here, you can see how it's rounded in both directions there. That way there's this little amount of friction and the arrow's going to release really smoothly because we're rounded this way, but we're also curved that way as well. All right, let's finish this part up here. The biggest mistake you can do on an arrow rest is to cut it too deep where your bow's not structurally strong enough to hold up to the stress. Just be careful how far you cut. I like to keep it a rule of don't go beyond center. Okay, so this is a really good starting point where we're at right here. I think I already said that. This is a really good 3/8 the way point. What we're gonna do next is some belt sander work. So this would be either rasp work, belt sander work, any type of sander work, I guess. But what I'm gonna do is clean out some of this area here on the arrow rest, and then I'm gonna clean up these sides here, and then we'll start with that, and I'll get back to you on the next two major points. The goal is gonna be to get this to fit your hand, how you like it to fit. I just started rounding over here where my palm's gonna go in the handle. There's two spots that are gonna feel uncomfortable that aren't necessarily obvious when you're shaping a handle. The first spot that is not gonna be symmetrical side to side is gonna be on your arrow rest side, this whole area right here. When you're holding the bow, you've got your palm right there where the pad of your thumb generally will hold in the throat of the handle, but you've got this extra muscly part of your hand that's gonna need somewhere to fit, and so you're gonna cut that edge out right there. Secondly, you want to cut out a groove angle like that. That way, when your fingers wrap around, if you're a type of person who likes to grip the bow, it's on the angle your fingers are coming around. The other thing to keep in mind is you want a round handle. And so you're gonna take out a lot of these corners so it's as round as possible, and that makes for a much more comfortable handle than just to be straight this way. But if you can have the midpoint of this handle be the furthest out, round the insides there, and then round the inner corners there, it's gonna feel really good on the hand.
What do you mean the midpoint of the handle being the furthest out?
Okay, so right here, let's say this is the midpoint here and here. You want this to be the furthest point out, and so we'll take off some up and we'll take off some on the bottom. That way it's completely round. Not completely round, but more round, and it makes it feel a whole lot more comfortable. So I'm gonna go whack off some more of this on the belt sander, then we'll move over here to the rasps. So all of what I just did could be done in this step right here. I'm gonna move over to rasp now and start cleaning out this handle. You can see right here how we still got the marks from the drill. I'm going to smooth out all of these edges. So this edge here, I'm gonna take that in, but again, leave this center line out further and smooth that in right there with rasp. The only thing I'm being careful of here is to not take any material off the middle there, but keep it at this angle, which will allow you to make it more of a round handle, more comfortable in the hand. That's feeling pretty good. I'm gonna take a little bit more off with the chisel for the arrow rest. The bigger the sight window you can get, the better you can see. And so I like to take off as much as I can in that area.
What's the sight window?
The sight window is going to be this area right here. This whole area that's cut out. When I'm in line with the arrow, it allows me to see above my target. If your sight window ended right there, you've only got an inch to look there. So I'm gonna drag this sight window out right here as far as I can, just giving me more vision. You just don't wanna drag out your sight window beyond your fade out, because then you'd be going into the working limb.
So the sight window can only be as long as your handle, basically, that you.
Yes.
The end of your handle.
Yes. I mean, and also depending on your form, you could see around the riser or whatever, but a lot of people shooting gap or string walking or something, you're using the arrow as a reference point.
Right.
And so depending on your distance, you want as much room as possible. Alrighty, so this is looking quite good. It's actually feeling really good. Kind of look at the shape of it so far being real rough, but it feels real good in the handle. Got a place for these fingers back here. Gonna need to take a little bit more off here, but it's rounded, more circular. And the sight window could be cut in a little deeper, it looks like, if you want to. So I'm gonna do that with a rasp from here on and a sander. My two favorite sanders to use is just a basic orbital sander. And one that's been working really well for me recently is one of these mouth sanders. I picked up the cheapest one I could get to try it out, and it does really well around the arrow rest where you need more of a 90-degree angle. And then you can also get the point of it in some tight angles as well. So those two tools with a lineup of rasp and files and sandpaper will get the job done. Well, you don't need that much, but that's what gets it done the fastest for me. All right, I'm gonna get after this real quick. Hey, Future Kramer right now. Just wanted to talk to you real quick about my company, Shatterproof Archery, as Kaz walks over and shows you these bows. So we've been making custom bowstrings for a few years, customizing them to exactly what our customers want. Love their products, everything like that. But here Kaz is showing our first ever bow lineup. We've increased our labor, we're increasing production, and these bows are going to launch here in the next few weeks. If you want to be notified when these launch, go to our website. There's a tab at the top that says bows, and you can fill that out and you will be notified by email. Or you can also stick around on the YouTube channel. The email list will be notified first, and we are going to start off with collections and pre-orders, and they will not be available all the time. Because we need to build up a strong foundation before we can offer it full on. So thanks so much for your patience. Thanks so much for your interest in this company. I am so stoked about where we're going, and couldn't do it without you. So I just wanted to give you a major thanks real quick. So anyway, enjoy the rest of this video.
Starting with 220 grit?
40.
40. Starting rough.
So I sanded this up to 120 grit. I would continue doing that to 400 grit. You can use steel wool or paper towels afterwards to make it smooth, but that's the general shape. I want to show you one mistake that happens all the time here in a second. But first, as a quick reminder, this right here for your hand wrapping around to make it nice and smooth. And then you need a good divot for your palm there. You can see how the shape's different on this side than this side, nice and smooth. And then how the middle here is the furthest point out, and it rounds around to the back. That's the major points. Don't cut past center. The last thing is to not use a rasp in the direction of the back of the bow. This bow is a junk bow that I made a few years ago that doesn't work. Something I did a little bit earlier is I was going really quick, wasn't paying attention, and I used the rasp in the direction of the back of the bow. Don't do that. Like that, and you can see the aftermath of that, how bad that could be, because this can split out, split all the way down. So you want to be quite careful of that, to not rasp or use tools towards the back of the bow. A good way to just change that is flip it around this way and only work inwards. You don't want the backing to come off. With that being said, that's how I shape a handle. Go enjoy making a bow. Thanks for sticking around. Hey, we're close to 200 thou. Woo! Wait, not 200 thou. Is that right? 200,000?
Yep.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for sticking around. It's an honor. Have a good day. Stay shatterproof. Ooh.
Trash.
Trash or treasure? This is complete trash. You've got to be kidding me. It's trash. Man, that's treasure.
Trash or treasure?
It's official. Don't try to find us.